Okay, so today I'm going to tell some of my favorite memories about my grandparents. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of tell it in a story instead of writing it all down. So that's why I decided to video. Um, this is actually a scrapbook page I made of my grandparents when I started scrapbooking about 15 years ago. Somewhere around there. It's a very outdated scrapbook. um, Here's a little close-up view of my grandparents. This is my dad's parents. Um, My grandpa was quite a bit older than my grandma. She was his second marriage. His first wife passed away. And so he was quite a bit older. He had this cane right here. And whenever we'd go visit him, he'd poke us with the cane. And we'd say, "Grandpa, don't poke us." And he would act all innocent like he didn't poke us. He was a really good gardener. I remember um, seeing and helping him out in his garden. They lived just a few blocks away from us, so we went out and helped him weed a lot. And I remember seeing some pictures of him with giant zucchinis that were up to like his shoulder or chest, that all the way from the ground up to his chest. So he really liked to garden. He was a very good gardener. He also was a very big tease, like I mentioned with the cane. And a not so fun memory, when I was about 10 years old, I started mowing their lawn for them. And he would always get after me, like, "You didn't mow it right," or "You went the wrong way." Very picky about it. He he passed away from a stroke. He had a stroke. He was out walking one time, and he said he tripped over a crack on the sidewalk, and he'd had a stroke, and he passed away when I was in high school. So I don't really have tons of memories with him. Um, Something that my grandma and grandpa did together up until about the time I was 13 or 14, every year on our birthdays, they would go take us out. They'd come pick us up, take us out to eat at whatever restaurant we wanted to go to. And of course, we always picked like McDonald's and kind of yucky restaurants, stuff that I wouldn't want to go to nowadays. And I remember one time going to this place called Purple Turtle, close to where we lived, and they had foot-long hot dogs, and I remember that. That was like the one thing that I always liked to go get, was the foot-long hot dogs. Kind of gross. Um, and then we'd go to the store and we'd get to pick out our own birthday present, and we thought that was pretty cool because, you go pick out the toy that mom and dad would never buy you. And so we always thought that was fun. And another funny little tidbit about my grandpa, he always filled his car when it got halfway empty. He would go and fill it up, and I always thought it was funny because, like, why do you always have to go to the gas station when your car is already half full of gas? But he wanted to be prepared in case he ever needed to leave town in a hurry. He would at least have a half a tank of gas. My grandma, she was the funniest jokester I ever knew. She had all these funny sayings that make no sense to me, and I need to ask my dad about all of them and write them all down because there's no way I can remember half the things she said. And I remember she had she had a stroke, and so her mind kind of went senile after a while when I was in high school. And Before that, though, she was really funny. After my grandpa passed away, I remember staying with my grandma one night, and my dad came to pick me up in the morning, and he asked her how she was. And she said, "I'm great, my breasts are enlarging." And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, that she just had a weird sense of humor. And I remember she always cuss about the stupidest things, and we just thought she was funny. She was also a diabetic, and whenever we'd go stay with her, she would give us money to go down to the convenience store that was like a block away, and she'd say, "Go buy me some treats, but you can buy some for you too, just don't tell your dad." So we liked to go do that because we obviously got candy. And we never told our dad, and we did tell him later, a few years later, like maybe a couple years ago. And he was just like, "What? I can't believe you did that. You could have killed her." Anyway, so that was fun. She was a trickster. She died my freshman year of college, and it was kind of sad. She had a stroke, and she had been in a rest home for a while, in like a home living healthcare place, assisted living. That's what it's called. And she hated living there a lot. But one sad thing that happened was that when she was in the hospital after she had her last stroke, she started getting an infection in her leg, and we had to amputate her legs. And that was kind of like one of the last hardest things she did. She actually never left the hospital after that, and she was always mad at my dad over that. We got a hold of some of her journals after she passed away, and it's been kind of fun to read through them. And she was very honest in her journal entries, and she would say stuff about my dad, like, Mike came over today, but I was so mad at him because blah blah blah. And so she was a very honest, open person, and a very funny person. So I wish I would have had more memories of them. It's too bad they passed away when I was so young. But those are the big things I remember about my grandparents, and I'm very grateful for them. And my maternal grandparents, my grandpa passed away when my mom was 12, so I never knew him. And my grandma lived in Denver, which was about 8 or 9 hours away, so we didn't see her too often. And she was kind of more straight-laced, hardcore, letter of the law type of lady. And the funny thing I remember about her is she'd always want to kiss us goodbye, and she always did the huge lips, like, and kind of suck in whenever she kissed us goodbye, and we always thought that was really funny. Anyway, so there's a few memories of my grandparents.